We shall see if Cruz has anyone to thank for his Wisconsin win. It's the Bullhorn Brigade, the big mouths of conservative Wisconsin talk radio who rallied behind the Texas senator. 6 hosts throughout the entire state used their platforms. Listen, criticize is a nice word. They went all out, pounding the billionaire frontrunner Donald Trump. Vicki McKenna is one of them, and she joins us live. Great to see you, Vicki. Hey, listen, the power of radio. You make us TV people look like pikers with your power yesterday.
Well, we're not going to apologize for that, actually. In Wisconsin, right media in Wisconsin is Wisconsin Talk Radio. And we may have one of the better networks of talk radio hosts in our state. And our conservatives look to us for analysis, for deep policy dives. They don't look to the papers. They don't look to television. So to have Donald Trump miss that calculation, big mistake.
Oh, well, sure he did. I mean, I think that absolutely proves it. Everybody talks about how Governor Walker was the key. Listen, I'm big on the media, needless to say, but your collective voices were extremely important. Did you have any clue in the days leading up to the primary that the collective voice of the radio folks would have such an effect this time around?
I didn't. You can't measure your effect. We knew that we were, we don't get together and exchange talking points, but we kind of know what each other is talking about. And we all knew we were all solidly against Donald Trump, which isn't to say every single talk radio host is pro Ted Cruz. I am, but I know that there are some who are not. This was about stopping Trump in Wisconsin because Donald Trump wanted to tell Wisconsin what we were all about, and we were going to let him know what Wisconsin was going to tell him. And so, no research, no preparedness. Imprecision when he walked into our buzzsaw. That was just almost gobsmackingly dumb as a calculation for the candidate. And it wasn't just us that resulted in that 13-point victory, but we're responsible for a couple of points, no doubt about it.
Okay, well, what was it specifically? You just talked about a couple of things, but delve a little bit more deeply for our viewers outside of Wisconsin. What specifically do you personally really dislike about Donald Trump and where he stands on issues?
I don't know where Donald Trump stands on issues. That's number one in what I dislike about Donald Trump. I don't trust Donald Trump on the Supreme Court, and I consider the Supreme Court my top issue in this election. Donald Trump is lazy. He's imprecise. He won't bother to do any research. He won't articulate policy positions. His campaign team just started to get a bit more specific. I asked him specifics in an interview that he had done with me, not too long ago before the Wisconsin primary. He couldn't be specific. He wanted to meander. He wanted to continue to, I was asking him things that had nothing to do with currency manipulation, but that was the response I kept getting. It's that sort of haphazardness that says to me that is a lack of respect that Donald Trump has for the campaign, for the American people, and for the voters in Wisconsin, and certainly for the conservatives.
You know what? And he also went after you guys. He called Charlie Sykes, one of your compatriots, a, quote, whack job. He said you guys were spreading misinformation. What do you have to say to Donald Trump about that today?
I think Donald Trump is a sore loser. I think Donald Trump, all Donald Trump had to do was bother to spend 5 minutes researching what the Wisconsin conservative movement is all about. Remember in Wisconsin that years before Governor Walker was actually elected, we had begun to shift the strategy of how to organize in Wisconsin from a top-down party dictated strategy to a ground-up grassroots dictated strategy. And we kicked the establishment to the curb a long time before the Tea Party movement came on the scene. To have some guy from from outside Wisconsin come in and tell us we're establishment and we don't know what conservative is, we had to let him know that he was wrong.
Vicki, let me throw this at you before we go. He's leading by a long shot in New York with 95 delegates. Wisconsin's in the rearview mirror. What would you say to New York voters, GOP voters, to perhaps give them your perspective here?
I would ask them to, spend some time researching Donald Trump's position. They consider themselves conservative. They need to know what conservative means, at least what the rest of the country thinks conservative means, and that's limited government, that's adherence to first principles, that's fidelity to the Constitution. That is actually not looking to better manage a gigantic mess in Washington, D.C., but find a way to actually reduce the size of the mess and clean it up. So what I would ask New York voters to do, but I'll also tell you something. Ted Cruz and the rest of the folks who are against Trump have already baked in Trump's victory in New York into the pie going forward, and that is why, you know, no matter what happens in New York, the enthusiasm coming out of Wisconsin is going to carry forward into some future primaries.
The power of radio. Very interesting. Vicki, great to have you on the show.